My name's Cheri. Welcome to my Stampin' Up! Workshop. Today I'm going to do some paper pumpkin alternatives for you, but before I get going, there's a couple of things I wanted to remind you of. First, if you were interested in my butterfly class, registration was supposed to close today, but I wanted to let you know that it already filled. It filled up before the registration deadline came. You can still sign up for just the video portion of it, but all of the kits have been claimed. But my online spring retreat is, you can sign up for that through the end of this month. But spring online retreat there's 3 bundles that we're focusing on, and here's 2 of them. So you can still sign up for that. If you sign up for my online retreat, then when you get your retreat packet, you will get your new catalog with that. And those will be my first catalogs that go out. And as soon as I get my retreat packets mailed out, then the next set of catalogs that go out will be to anybody that has purchased from me online since January of this year. Retiring list does come out next week, so be watching for that. But because there's a whole lot in this paper pumpkin, I didn't want to take a whole lot of announcement times. But the online retreat, we're not going to do any kind of coloring. We're going to do emboss resist, watercolor wash, floating frames. And even though it takes place over a weekend, you don't have to be there that weekend. You have access to the videos for a year, so you can watch them whenever it's convenient for you. And there's a bunch of different ways to participate. You can get all the bundles, you can pick your bundle, you can just get the card supplies, or you can just get the videos. So if you're interested in that, I'll put the link down below this video and you can go see that. I'm not gonna show you any of the regular ones because my kit's a couple of days late, and by the time I get it in, it's late. There's already videos posted of the regular ones, so you can do those. In fact, there's some of the stuff I'm not gonna even use. I haven't made any of them. So we'll see how we go. It's going to be another wing it video because I have 4, so I didn't want to use them all up beforehand. I might use some of these to stamp the words on. Then there's these pretty backgrounds. Not going to use them, but they are very pretty. It kind of has that Italy feel, which, you know, once upon a time when we could travel, you could go to Italy and see it for yourself that that's what it looked like. Then there's these fabulous die cuts, and we are going to use those because these are just beautiful. I would buy whole sheets of those if we could. Then the card backs are Pretty Peacock, which is an outgoing in color. So if you like it, you'll want to get more. These are all messed up because I was trying to decide what I wanted to use. So there's just Pretty Peacock, which is just this. Then there's this one, which I'm not using because you'll see why in a second. So there's that, which you can layer some of the stuff over. Then these really fun little patterns are envelope inserts. So you can use them. Really nice craft colored envelopes, and they just slide in here, and then they make your envelopes super duper fancy. But you know, here's the deal. Some of these cards will be great masculine cards, and the guys don't ever look, I'm not gonna say all guys, a lot of guys don't look at the card anyways. They're not gonna pay attention to the envelope. So if you're giving it to a guy who's not gonna look super long at the card, don't waste this pretty paper on the inside of their card. Save it and use it. So we're going to use a piece of the paper, the envelope insert, on one of our cards. And then the stamps are really pretty. It's got this little pine that reminds me of the In the Pines stamp set. This one reminds me of the corner bouquet that we just had, and then greetings and some little birds. I have not stamped with any of them. So let's get going. And then I love our linen thread. This looks like it's a tiny bit thicker, maybe not. May just be because I haven't taken it out of here. And dimensionals, and these are mini dimensionals this time. Both of these are often, they're one of my go-tos often for my monthly thank you gifts. In fact, the mini dimensionals are right now when you purchase off my website, and this was a couple of months ago because they're 2 of my standby favorites that I love. The ink spot that you get this month is Calypso Coral. And then what's super cool about this month's paper pumpkin, and why I'm doing 4 alternatives, is that they gave you 4 little masks and this stamping sponge and the Calypso Coral. So you get, there's a ton in this month's kit. So I'm going to try to show you 4 ways to use the masks, 4 different ways. So I've pulled out several different kind of supplies. So for this one, we're going to use the fun stars. So you get these stars. So let's take a pretty peacock, and if you love this color, it will be leaving soon, so it will start to sell out all of the things, like the cardstock, the refills, all of that will start to sell out. So I'm going to take my card, and I'm going to take the trees. I should have brought a stamp cleaner over here because I might use these again later. Now I can't even remember the cards that, you know, they're in my head, but it's hard enough when there's 2, but now that I want to do 4, I don't remember exactly what I was going to do with these. So I'm going to stamp these kind of on here. So it's going to be tone on tone. This is definitely could be a masculine card. So just stamp these across the bottom. Isn't that pretty? I mean, that's almost pretty enough just on its own. So we have those. Then let's get, I think there's a happy birthday. There's like a happy new year. There's a here's to you. There's a happy birthday. There's a congratulations. There's one that would make a nice congratulations. I mean, like a graduation, because we're coming up on that season. And because I have camp today, tons of my blocks are downstairs. So we're going to wing this on block sizes for some of them that are not appropriate, but that's okay. Should have shut that till I was done. So let's stamp this happy birthday on a block that's not the right size, so I'll have to be careful when I stamp it. It fits on here. Isn't that cute? Peacock's a beautiful color. So then I want to use the stars. And obviously they gave you this sponge so you can sponge, and I'm going to show you how to use that when we do the sponge one. This is not the sponge one, because obviously if you're going to do the stars, you kind of want them to twinkle. So I have some alcohol, and then I have one of our spritzers, and these are in the back of the catalog. You get 2 of them for $3. We used them at camp today to make tie-dye. I have a series of tie-dye videos that just went up recently on my channel. And then I just have one of these little things that you can refill essential oils and stuff with. And I like to put my stuff in here, especially when I'm in here and I'm at my desk, because then I don't have to worry about it spilling. So I'm just going to fill this. I don't want to make a ton of it. So I filled it about 1/3 of the way with alcohol. And the reason that you use alcohol, you can use water for a lot of these things, but when you use alcohol, it dries fast. Because, you know, if you use water, it gets your paper wet. If you use alcohol, it gets wet, but then it dries quickly. And then this is our Frost White Shimmer paint. Yeah, I'll use white. You can use the Champagne Mist. Both of them are pretty. The Champagne Mist is more of a glitter. This will be obviously more of a white. But I'm not going to add a bunch. I'm just going to add enough that it's going to add a little bit of glisten and a tiny bit of white. Because I don't want it to look like snowflakes. So I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of running down the side. There's not a lot. Stick this on here. And you can see that my tube in here is stained because I've reused this a lot of times. Because as you see, I didn't put a ton of stuff in here because when I'm done with this color, I will take it to the sink and rinse it out. And there's lots of different things you can put in here. I have them in my purse. And I have eyeglass cleaner. I have hand sanitizer, even pre-pandemic. When my daughter went to college, I gave her a whole little set. I even have one with just water in the car, because how many times are you in your car and you're like, oh, I just need a squirt of water on my hands if something gets sticky or dirty. So just shake it up so the alcohol and the shimmer paint mix. You do need a tiny bit of scrap paper. And the nice thing with this, I'm going to use my bone folder so this is laying a little bit flatter, is if when it oversprays, because it's going to get a little bit on the card, because these are kind of designed for panels. You can see it has a little bit more. It doesn't matter. It'll just add a little bit of sparkle. So just hold this on here. My finger's already dirty. Where it gets your fingers, they'll be sparkly too. So see, if that's water, your card's going to get wet. But because this is shimmer paint, I'm going to let it dry just a second. then your card will, the paper's not wet. And you can see it's just giving a shine. If I'd put more in there, you can make it white. So if you're doing snowflakes, you can make it be white. Then I'm just gonna take this tissue and just kind of blot up, because obviously the alcohol is not gonna soak into that. And now we have some stars. See what I mean about it getting around the edges, but it doesn't matter so much on this because it's just shimmery. If it was a color, like if I was doing it with a color, which we will do in a second, then I don't necessarily want that overspray. And I'm gonna pop out one of these. And I didn't want the stars to be on it. If it was snowflakes, I probably would have. Because you know, the snowflakes would be falling over the top of the trees, but the stars aren't going all the way down to the earth. So this will help also take care of that line that's there. So we'll just kind of put these here. You could have gone a little bit higher. That's what happens when you've never made a card before. And I'm going to take my happy birthday and pop it out of here. I'll use my happy birthday and cover up. Oh, no, I don't need to. I'm going to move this up a little bit because I'm going to take a little bit. This is my linen thread, not the one that came in the kit. They do look very similar. So see, this is a nice guy card. So I know this is going to end up over here. You could use the glue dots that come in the thing, or you can just use your normal adhesive. And I'm going to put this here. And then I'm going to kind of go up here, kind of hold it that as long as I know I want it to be. Swirl that back down there. And then again. And that way I have some room to work with. I didn't want any of these to be too short. And then your mini dimensionals. And you need the mini ones for this. These are, again, not the ones that came in the kit because I'm not going to open my new pack when I already have some laying here. But the big ones would be too big for these trees. That's why they gave us baby ones this time. So kind of hold this out of the way. Just stick this on here. And then I'm going to take this. This is really the one that needs to be held. So whichever one you're kind of going cattywampus on you, you can use a glue dot. I'm just going to put some adhesive, and now that's a little better. It's not kind of going so bad. So this one you can kind of use to hold whichever one you want. So there's our first one. Nice and simple, but with those stars, it really sets that peacock off. And those extra trees, it's just a really nice, simple, great masculine card. So there's number one. We will do on some white cardstock, and they've got clouds. So the clouds can be sparkly and white, but I don't want it to just be white. So I'm going to take my lid off again. And with the clouds, you can kind of go any color. I mean, you can see on here, they've got them in different colors. I'm going to go pool party. So my clouds will kind of have the sky tone to them since I'm going on white paper. But I don't want them to be too dark. So, and this is our ink refill. So I'm just going to put like 2 drops in. And there's not very much alcohol in here. Pool Party has that robin eggs feel. I mean, it's a bluish green. A nice sky color. I use it a lot. It's one of my most used colors. So I'm going to shake it. But because this now, see, this is a panel, and I cut it so the whole thing's going to get covered up. So I'm going to start these up here. So that first little bit goes off the top. Make sure my card's as much under here as it can be. I guess I didn't cut my paper straight. And again, because it's alcohol, it will dry faster. And these will have a little bit of sparkle to them because they're sparkly clouds. So see just a little bit of blue. And again, I'm going to hold it there just for a second, just so it grabs that shape. So let's lift that up. So pretty, pretty little sparkle ones. And then I'm gonna move this down a little bit more. And they can overlap because the ones that overlap will be a tiny bit bluer than the ones that are underneath. Okay, but this time I need to be careful because I don't want to get that line up there. So I'm going to try to not squirt this. I'm going to squirt my hand instead. Oh yes, that's much bluer. And I'm doing this because this is going to have to dry now. Whoops. Okay, so this is all going to be blue. We're going to have some sky up there. There we go. So I'm going to set this aside and let it dry, and that's going to be our background. And with the masks, then you just take them over to the sink and wash them off. That's pretty. I like that. With this one here. And this one, I'm going to use the Sunburst. And this is one where I'm going to use the envelope insert. Because I think this piece of paper is far too pretty to put inside an envelope where it won't get seen. So let's cut it at 4 inches. And then it's a little bit wider than what we need it to be. So just trim off that much. And then let's check. That's perfect. Okay, now we're going to use a sponge, but for this one I'm going to show you another alternative to a sponge if you want to, because you have these masks and they will last forever. You can also use them with our shimmer paste, which I may do a video in a couple of days to show you how to use them with the shimmer paste. And now I've got my other thing over here, my scrap paper. So I am going to use Daffodil Delight because this is sunshine. And I'm not quite sure what the yellow is in the paper, but I chose the color of my ink based on the ribbon because I'm going to use Daffodil Delight ribbon. So I'm going to use one of our sponge daubers, and you get a little package of these in the catalog, and they just go on the end of your finger. It's a little bit more control than a sponge. And in fact, we're using sponges and sponge brayers and sponge daubers all in my spring retreat. But on this one, because it's got these things that will move easily, I just like the control that the dauber gives you over what the giant sponge does. And you can buy the sets of these and just rinse them out. Or you can be lazy like me, and now I have a yellow one. So I could use this for Bumblebee or saffron, and when I'm done, I'll just scrape it on my paper. So most of whatever this yellow is comes out. And it just stays yellowish. So then I'll have a green one and a blue one and a brown one. And eventually they get kind of hard, and then I just throw them out and I start a new color when that one's hard. You know, purple. But especially because you can see how these move. And when you're using the bigger sponge, it's harder to get that control. And you can see why this is not the day that you would have wanted to redo your nails, but it's super fun. I like this kind of playing. And that's why it's, for winter retreat, we did a lot of coloring, a lot of stuff with the Stella and ink pads and coloring that way. But for this one, I thought, I just want to do something different. So that's why we're doing a ton of fun stuff like this. But as a little sneak peek, at winter retreat, if you did my winter retreat, then you know you got your masks, because I knew at that point that we were getting masks in an upcoming paper pumpkin, and they all got a spritzer because they're getting a spritzer getting spritzers and water painters for spring retreat, but they did get a spritzer to start kind of messing with at winter retreat so they could get a feel for it before it started. I am a stamper who builds on what I just did. So I always have the ongoing series, what's laying on my desk. So there's always something coming, one project coming from the last. This is going to be really pretty. And had I not filled the thing with the blue already, and I guess I could, it might change this to a little bit of green, but you could spritz it so it would have just the shimmer on it. because you can fill those little things with the shimmer, especially the champagne mist, and kind of make your own shimmer paper all the time. It just doesn't have that nice coat that our shimmer paper has on it. Do the, here's to you. I'm gonna go ahead and just use the peacock again. I thought about using the coral, but I haven't opened it. And this will look pretty because we're gonna put it on the peacock card base. Stick that on there. Isn't that paper so pretty? So we've got this, and you can see I had the little extra so I'd be able to hold onto the paper. Just need to trim this off. Anytime you're stenciling, it's not a bad idea to have a little bit of extra on the sides. Let's pop this out of here. And then I have the daffodil ribbon, which I'm not going to really tie a bow. Just kind of want this to go from the middle of my sun. So because I cut off a lot of ribbon, let's do one of these where you kind of make a If you're a paper pumpkin fan and you haven't bought any of the kits from the catalog, you should take a look at those because we have some great kits. So I'm just going to put some adhesive right here and then stick both ends of that. So if you don't tie bows, that's a great way to get your ribbon on your card. Just make sure it's all stuck there. Put our dimensionals there, but there's inclusive kits and partial kits and kits where it's pretty much just spelled out for you, just like the paper pumpkin does. So if you need something to fill you up in between you getting your paper pumpkins, or ones that you want to do with friends who aren't paper pumpkin subscribers, I have a couple of online classes that, because the retiring list is coming out, you never know if our kids will make it another year. Isn't that sweet? But the Posies kit, the boho kit, and it's the kit that has the lemons in it. I have all of those right now. So you can get those, and then I have classes that go with them. But you just buy the kit, and then you can take the class. And that information is on my website. So we have this. And then just one more little touch, because I want it to look like, and we could add the birds, but I like to add little speckles. So I'm going to grab my peacock blend. And you need the brush tip. And then we're not just putting some white paper on here. That makes it look like a little bit more, has a little bit more art to it. I'll let that dry a second, so I'm going to put my adhesive on here. So there's the second way. That is with a sponge dauber. Those are called sponge daubers if you've not used them before. So let's see if this is dry. Yep, that's dry enough. I'm going to take this top off where I don't need quite that much, even though it's beautiful and sparkly. Get rid of that. And I'm going to get rid of a little bit of this on the side. Can you see how sparkly that is? So pretty. And then for this one, I'm going to use this fun little set of flowers in here. I'm going to use our Stampin' Right markers. You're just getting a little bit of everything. And part of it, a couple of times there was a color I wanted, and I'm like, oh, that's down at camp. And I didn't want to mess camp up because I had camp this morning, and now I have camp tonight. So I'm just going to ink these. And I probably should have washed these off because sometimes the photopolymer, yep, let me grab where'd I put my scrap paper? My scrap paper, it has seen better days now. Sometimes the photopolymer, you know, it has that coating on it. So you need to kind of wipe that off. Think of it kind of as if you baked a cake or some cookies and it had that squirt of Pam on it. So depending on when your stamps were put in the process, some of them may have more of the anti-stick stuff to make them pop out than others have. So I got my leaves. Now we'll do some flowers. You just color this on here, and I'm gonna finish coloring these on, and then I'll come back when I'm ready to stamp it. Okay, so now I've inked up my last one. It doesn't take long at all. I just didn't want you to have to sit and watch me color them. Huff on that. And the nice thing is because they're photopolymer, I can kind of see. Now in the middle one, I used Flirty Flamingo, and in the other two, I used Melon Mambo, just to give my flowers a little bit of a different color. Then I'm gonna take Bermuda Bay. Yeah, I think that's what I pulled out. Let's wash off this giant Here's to You. The peacock's just a little bit much, a little bit too regal color. It's a brighter version almost of Pool Party. Could have gotten Coastal Cabana as well. And take that, huff on that. So we have, that's super pretty. And then I'm gonna take Pool Party ribbon. And add this here. And my little bow. This is beautiful ribbon. It's part of the Whale Punch suite. And it's gonna tie off that little bit of the sky because it's the same color as what we just made the sky and the clouds with. This kit, I mean, I know when you get it and you open it, it's very outdoorsy, very nature. And in fact, you look at it and you think, I'm gonna do some great masculine cards with it. But because of the pieces that come in it, the masks, for one, you'll be able to use forever on lots of projects. But by mixing it up, I mean, we have gone totally off what the original feel of the kit is. And I'm just gonna mount this on white, give us a nice spring bright card. I'm just gonna do this flat because it's got enough color and enough little texture to the paper from being squirted that I don't have to put it on dimensionals. And then any extra embellishments that you have from some of your past kits that are kind of shiny and sparkly, you could add to that. So isn't that one fun? So now we have one more, and for this one we are going to use the sponge that they gave you, and we're going to use the mountains. I'm going to cut this down once I have these on. So again, it's going to be, I'm going to end up trimming it. It's easier for me, I think, to make the cardstock bigger and then trim to where your stencils look good, as opposed to trying to get these always lined up. So for this, I chose my colors based on some older videos, the tutorials I have that are maybe a year old from last summer, where I used the mountain stamps. And they were kind of bright versions with purple kind of sunset colors. So for this, I've got Highland Heather, Pumpkin Pie, and Mossy Meadow. Now I'm gonna take my sponge, and when I get a sponge, I cut it in about 6 pieces. I know 4 is about the general, but I think 4 kind of gives you a big section, and I don't need mine to be that big. And the sponges are inexpensive, and so then when they get dirty, you can just throw them out and get a new one. So see, if you did it in 4, it's a little bit bigger than that, and you don't need that big. And so now we will only need half a sponge to get all of our colors. So I'm going to start, get my scrap paper again. I'm going to start like here. And with this one, I can already tell, we actually did a blending brush project today in camp. and it had a border at the top. You have to be careful. That's one of the reasons I do like the Daubers a little bit better. They're a smaller sponging surface, so you're less likely to go higher. Because when we use the blending brushes today, if you went too high, then you caught that top edge, and you don't want to get up here, and I don't want to get down there. So you want to keep it right inside your area. See what I mean? I don't want it to go down there, otherwise I'm going to have that line. And we only want a mountain. We don't want the thing above or the thing below. So just sponge this on. And again, this is Highland Heather. And I know it's hard for you to see because of my hands, but if I don't have my hands here and hold this, you have to hold the mask down with some pretty good pressure, because if it lifts up, then you go underneath it and then you don't get a nice crisp edge. So there's our Highland Heather. And see, it's got on the edge, and I did get a little bit of the edge here. So I'll be able to trim that off. That, not so much. Our larger masks, of course, have a bigger area. Now I'm going to move this one and put it here. So it looks like this next layer of mountains. And this is why, see, that was plenty big enough. In fact, when your sponge is too big, I think there's more chance of you getting it outside the area that you needed it to be. So this is pumpkin pie. I also think that when you sponge, it's a nice time to kind of smear that ink back around in your stamp pad. And again, real careful not to get that ink down below the line. So just sponge this on here. And it's okay that the colors overlap, you just don't want that line. So there's that one. And then right here where I don't have the color, you just take your sponge and kind of sponge that in. There we go. And then one more. I'm not closing them all the way because I haven't, like I said, I've never made these cards, so I'm not quite sure what I want them to look like. I gotta see which one I already did. Not this one. So this has the tallest mountain peak. If you have the white paint and you're doing a winter card, you could put those white seascapes on the top. I think I'll go a little bit lower with this one. And this is Mossy Meadow. I like to get my color kind of started, and then you can kind of, because some of the color of the ink sticks on the stencil itself because it's plastic and it doesn't dry, so you can kind of pull it in. And again, you can rinse these out in the sink, or you can just have them be green. Some people put little labels on them to say what exact color they are. Just gonna wedge those in there to get those and then I'm going to take this color and kind of just pull it down. I don't want any of my lines on these to be, so there we go. And I think 3 is enough. I thought maybe there was a chance I might want to do another purple, but I kind of like the way that looks like it might be going down to water. So now here's our card. And this was cut just long ways, so it's still a half a card size. We know we want to get rid of the edge. There. And the edge over here. And then I'll put the trees on, and then we'll see how much more we want to get. But I wanted to get those off before the trees went on. I'm going to do the trees in the Mossy Meadow. They do still have a little bit of peacock, and I didn't bring it cleaner over here, so We'll get as much off as we can this way. Just give a whole little tree front to these. And then I'm going to use the Here's to You again, but I don't want Bermuda Bay. I'm going to go with the purple since our card's purple. Do it over here. And then let's get those tiny little birds that we haven't used yet. And they have, let's grab this long one, which I know I don't have all of my stamps, all my blocks for this are downstairs. This is it's one of the long skinny ones, and those are the ones I have the least of. So this is one of the words that says, may your journey through life take you to many and exciting places. Let me put it on crooked. If you ever feel like your stuff's always a little bit crooked, it's because when you lay them on your block, like they bend. So it's better if you lay your stamp, because then it doesn't bend, and grab it with your block. So let's do it. I would do it in black, but all of my black pads, they're not all downstairs, but they're not here where I can get them. This is what happens when you try to multitask and do two things on one day. I could almost do peacock. It would not look bad on this card, but this will match. There we go. And then that leaves, we used all the colors again. So what color shall we do our tiny birds? I might do those in peacock. And I don't want them to be the focal point, as I wouldn't if they were black. So what you do is this first one would be the darkest. What direction do they go? Those are kind of some funky flying birds. I'm not exactly sure which direction they're going. One's upside down, it looks to me. So the first one I'm going to stamp over here. I don't know. They look kind of like one's going upside down to me. Here we go. Now we know more what size our card's going to be. I'm going to use my twine and put it around the top. So I want to have enough room for twine. So I'm going to take that much more off. And I don't want to do a bow because it could be for a guy. So I'm going to put my adhesive back here. Oops, come on. And then I'm just going to wrap it a couple of times. And then end up back here again. So we've got this. Now for this, again, I like for these cards to look a little dirty. So we have options. We could squirt it, but this is Pool Party and I didn't use any Pool Party. I could empty it out and do another one. I have a pink one laying here. But I think I'm just going to go back to flicking it. So let's get the moss. And this is the dark moss. And I'm going to do both of them individually. Because a little bit more of this purple is going to show since we've trimmed our card down. Got that. And that. I don't know, it just looks like it has a little bit more life to it than just, and especially because my moss ink pad has been used with blending brushes recently and it needs to be re-inked, When your stamps start looking like that, it's time to re-ink them. And I didn't realize that because that's what happens when you do this and you don't make a mock-up card first. But there you go. I like that. Very pretty. I like the little seascape. It makes a great guy card. And for most of the men in my life, I will be honest, I don't spend a ton of time because none of them are like, oh, you made this. Oh, that's fabulous. They're like, oh, nice card. Is there money inside? No, they don't say that. But so here is masking with the sponge that comes in your kit. Masking with a sponge dauber. Spritzing with just the shimmer paint. And spritzing with the shimmer paint and some ink refill. So there's 4 different ways to use your masks, and that's not even all of that. If you have any questions at all about the techniques that I've used, my thank you gift this month is the mini dimensionals. So if you need some more of those and the liquid glue. So if you're interested in ordering from me or taking any part of my classes or the kit classes, go to my website and find all the information there. Everybody have a great day. Bye.